Hello again, folks. This is Sulis speaking, and you're watching a commentary video on Final Fantasy V. This is part 7 of my Ironcore team variant, and we're starting at the beginning of the third world, and the boss battle against the Ant Lion. I almost hesitate to call this a boss because this is a very easy challenge, especially compared to the X-Death boss that concludes the second world, but you do get the boss music, and this is something that you have to fight with only 2 party members, so I suppose it counts as a boss battle. The Ant Lion has essentially one move that's of any danger at all, and that is Sonic Wave, which cuts the level of the user in half. You saw him try to use it right at the beginning of the battle, but he actually missed. I only have 2 party members because both Farah and Ferris and Lena have left the party briefly. So I'm doing a very basic boss setup. Bartz is simply attacking with double grip and drain sword magic so that he heals himself as he attacks. Meanwhile, Kara is simply casting Fire 3 with a Fire Rod equipped because it's the spell that does the most damage, doing about 3,000 per casting. And soon enough, the Ant Lion escapes. Not the most difficult battle, but like I said, you do only have the 2 party members. Next, I wanted to highlight the Machine Head Robots. These are enemies that walk around in the pyramid. You can actually see 3 of them there, and when you touch them, you initiate a battle against them. These guys have a lot of hit points, and they can do some dangerous attacks like Missile, which just missed there, and they can also do an attack called Surge Beam, the same one that Soul Cannon does. Takes away half of your max HP. So it can be a dangerous situation, but right there, the Machine Head chose not to attack instead of doing Surge Beam, and then Bartz kills him with Bolt 2 Sword. So if you have any kind of lightning magic or any way to do lightning damage, pretty easy to get by them. If you don't, they're a lot harder. The first real boss in the third world is this one, Meryne, also called Melusion. This is the last boss that you fight before you get Lena back, and thank goodness because this game's a lot easier with 4 characters than even just with 3. She is one of the many bosses in RPG games in which you have a boss that changes its weak point. She starts out weak to fire, but she can also switch randomly into forms that are weak to ice and forms that are weak to lightning. And then finally there's a 4th form that's strong against all 3 elements, actually absorbs all of them, but is weak against physical damage. For example, right here you see this first part is weak against fire magic, and you can see my physical attacks aren't really doing anything. I suppose I should have had Bartz cast Fire 3 Sword, that would have done a lot more damage, but I didn't know how quickly Meryne would switch into other forms. As it turned out, she's stuck with the fire form for quite a while here, so that's why I'm not doing any damage. The main thing I wanted to do here was get everyone protected with Shell status. Meryne doesn't attack very often, and when she does, her attacks aren't very damaging, but her magic spells are pretty dangerous to a party. You can see it did about 700 damage against Bartz, and that's well over half his hit points. So the first thing I had Kara do was protect everybody with Shell. That means that they'll take half damage from all magic spells, get it down to about the 300, 350 range, and that's just not that dangerous. Now I can have her cast Fire 3, and well, you can see how much damage Meryne takes in this form. I just had Bartz parry there because his attacks clearly weren't doing any damage. Here she chooses to cast Ice 3 on everybody and then changes her barrier. Now initially I didn't know what form she had changed to, but as soon as Ferris attacks and does 2,000 damage, I know right away that I'm on the form that's weak against physical attacks. That's why it's pointless to have Kara cast magic, it's just going to be absorbed. Now I can have Bartz and Ferris attack, and you can see they're doing a lot more damage now. So now my physical attackers are the ones that are doing the main damage in the fight. All Kara can really do is just either defend or heal. So the roles have actually switched from the beginning of the battle when Kara was the one doing the damage and my physical attackers weren't doing anything. In the meantime, I'm just going to keep attacking with my physical fighters. And Kara is just waiting around to heal. Like right now, I'm not taking an action in case I need to heal. Now, Meryne has switched, and she's actually confused Kara. So I'm going to swap out the chicken knife in favor of the knife, which is a very weak weapon, and that unconfuses Kara and gets us back to normal. Shell status there protected Ferris so that she only took 350 or so damage instead of taking 700 or 800 damage. And now I can attack with the chicken knife. Doesn't have anything, we've already stolen it, and that's that. I guess one last comment I'll make is I don't think that if this game had ever been released in the US that they could have gotten away with the artwork on Meryne. It would probably have been a little too racy for the American audience. Some of the bosses in Final Fantasy 3, 6 got censored when they came to the US. Alright, the next boss is, now that we finally have our full team together, is the one at the end of the Solitary Island Temple. This is known as Stalker, or Stoker in the really bad PlayStation translation, but it's obviously meant to be Stalker, because Stoker doesn't mean anything. Stalker consists of 4 different bosses, as you can see here. This is one where you have to try and guess the right one. I actually didn't do that too terribly successfully in this battle, as you'll see. Right there, Ferris cast Big Guard, also known as Mighty Guard. That is a blue magic spell that simultaneously casts armor and shell and float status. So it essentially gives you all of the best buffs in the game at one point in time. Extremely powerful, it applies into everybody, so you don't have to go through one at a time as I've had to do in so many of the previous battles. Then I have Lena cast Haste 2, so everyone has both, everybody's been sped up, everybody has armor status, everybody has shell status. Put your party in really good shape. Now, meanwhile, I'm trying to guess which one is the real Stalker. Each time that you hit the real Stalker, he resets and shifts around to one of the other targets. So, as far as your physical attackers go, you're just kind of guessing here. The only way that you can guarantee that you're going to hit the real one is to cast Summon Magic, like Kara did there. I'm using the Sildra Summon because as long as it's powered with a weapon that increases air element damage, it actually does as much or more damage as Bahamut, which I don't even have yet at this point in time, and it costs a lot less magic to boot. Right there, I'm just guessing as far as which one to hit, so that's why Ferris attacks and doesn't do anything. I honestly don't know which one of the 4 it is at this point in time. It turns out that it's still the one in the back, left corner, but like I said, it could have shifted around randomly, it just turned out that it didn't. Now right there, you see that Ferris actually blocks that blaze attack. And that's because Ferris is equipped with the Aegis Shield. Yeah, I've mentioned this a number of times before in my written reports. The Aegis Shield is the best shield in the game because it has a 1/3 chance to block any magic attack that comes after you. It actually has a lower physical attack percentage than some of the others. I think the Ice Shield and the Fire Shield have a slightly higher physical evade, but the Aegis Shield is the only one that can block magical attacks, and let's face it, almost all the most dangerous moves in this game come from magic damage, so you're much better off going with the Aegis Shield, even if its physical defense is a lot lower. I'm sorry if this isn't that interesting of a fight. I'm mostly just trying to hit the right Stalker, and I keep missing and hitting the wrong one, so I'm kind of waiting around and doing a lot of guesswork here. And of course, every time you hit the fake Stalkers with a spell, like every time I cast Sildra, that means that the fake Stalkers respond with that blaze attack. So I have to do a lot of healing up, and we have to sit through and wait for a lot of the attack animations when blaze goes through. But that's why this battle dragged out for quite a while. I promise a lot of the other boss battles were more interesting than this one, which has a lot of dead time of me not really doing anything all that interesting. More Sildra summons, more blazes in response to counterattack. Blaze itself, I suppose I'll mention, is actually an ice-based spell. It's supposed to do a roughly 1/4 of your max HP, but it's doing less than that because my characters are protected with shell status, so it's doing about 1/8 of everybody's max HP. You can see it's doing around 120 damage. Not too dangerous at this point in time. I can cure up with Cure 2 or even Cure 3 if I need it. I haven't used the Golem summon because Stalker doesn't do physical attacks, he just uses magical attacks. That's why I can just concentrate on this. Another Thunderstorm went through, so of course, now we're going to get 3 more Blazes. And Ferris blocks another one with the Aegis Shield. I do enjoy it every time that animation goes through. Oh, and so finally Stalker has died, but we have to wait for the fake ones to also burn off and disappear. And they slowly do so, one at a time. And so that's it. Now we finally won the battle. So, moving on to more exciting battles than that one. This last battle that I'm going to show to you in this video is the battle against Minotaur and Omniscient. These are the 2 bosses at the top of Fork Tower. I think that this is a really well-designed area in Final Fantasy V. You have to split up your party, much like you have to do in Final Fantasy 3-6, where there are a couple points in the game where you have to split up your party. In this one, you have to send half your party up the right tower, which is all physical attacks, and half your party up the magic tower, the one on the left. So against Minotaur, you can't use any magic in this battle. It's all physical only. So right at the start of the battle, I had Bart's attack, but I forgot to realize that the Minotaur absorbs holy element damage, so that means that he can't use Excalibur, which is a holy element weapon. Instead, I switch him over to the Icebrand sword, and even that was actually a mistake. There was actually a stronger sword called the Defense Sword that I should have been using, so little mistake on my part, but still worked out pretty well. Now, because I have no magic in this battle, I can't use blue magic, I can't use white wind. I actually have to use an elixir to heal up, but of course that's why I have 20 elixirs, so that's not a problem. In the meantime, my two physical fighters will just attack. I do have Bart's equipped with the running shoes accessories, which means that he is in haste status. I suppose I could have brought more running shoes accessories, but I actually limited myself to just one pair of running shoes while doing this playthrough. I thought that using one was fair. I thought maybe loading up with more than one would be a little bit overkill. So for this battle, it made more sense to give it to Bart's, because I thought he'd be doing the most damage, but silly me, when he had to give up Excalibur, he actually is doing less damage than Ferris, so a bit of a mistake in retrospect. Notice how Ferris is dodging attacks. Ferris has an elf cape, and Ferris also has a shield to help block attacks. So Ferris ends up only getting hit once in the entire battle, while Bart's is actually taking a lot of damage. At the end of the battle, the Minotaur tries to cast Holy against you, but of course he forgets that you can't use magic on this side of the tower, so it's completely ineffective. A little joke that the designers threw in there. So now we get the white magic spell Holy. This then immediately takes you to the battle against Omniscient, so I'm not putting in any cuts in the video here, I'm just proceeding right on to the next one. And just as you can only use physical attacks against the Minotaur, in this battle against Omniscient, you can only use magical attacks. If you use any kind of physical attack, he simply responds by casting Reset and starts the battle over again. So for some of the variant challenges, what you have to do is wait until he uses up all his magic points, so he can't cast Reset anymore, which takes a long time, needless to say. But in a group like this, I can just fight the battle normally with my two magic users. Alright, I had them start out by using Shell. Since Omniscient is all magic, that will cut in half all the damage he does. Lena also cast Haste too, so that they're both in haste status. And there, I'm just having her cast Comet, because it's the only attack magic that she has at this point in time. I added Carbuncle from Kara, which puts them both in wall status, so any spells that he casts against them will be reflected back. I guess that casting Comet was kind of a waste. It really didn't do noticeable damage. But the good news is that I can use the Sildra summon again. Omniscient is weak against Air Element, and that happens to be what Sildra is, so I'm doing a lot of damage there. It's actually even more damage than what it looks like here. Omniscient is in permanent shell status, so it actually cuts the damage in half. He'd be taking 6,000 damage otherwise, but that gets cut down to 3,000. Kara will continue to be the main damage dealer throughout this fight. Lena is still in sort of healing and support mode. What I was trying to have her do is slow down Omniscient, and I just did this to be fancy. I tried to bounce it off my own wall, and you can see that actually did successfully work. There was no need to do that. Omniscient isn't in wall status or anything himself, but I just thought it looked a little bit flashier, so did that for fun to try to make it look more interesting. He's also is prey to old status, so I tried to inflict him with that as well, but as it turned out, I was not able to do that in this battle. But he can be hit by aging status, and I've done it successfully with other characters in the past. That cuts down his regeneration quite a bit if you can hit him with that. Now, Carbuncle has actually run out. It only lasts for so long, and actually when you're in haste status, that means you stay in wall status less often, because you're in haste and that little timer in the background is running faster. So Lena is now putting down some walls for us, because I know that when Omniscient is about to die, he's going to respawn by casting Flare on us. So if we can put some walls up ahead of time, we won't have to worry about that. This summon spell from Kara should finish off the boss, if I remember correctly. And he'll respond by casting Flare, but oh, oops, we've already got a wall in place, and it just reflects back on him and does no damage to us. Not that it would have killed my guys, Flare can only hit one person, but, you know, if I can reflect the spell, nice to have it in place regardless. So that's how you get through the Fork Tower. Send the physical users up one side, send the magic users up the other side, and be careful. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and check back later for part 8.